Who here wants to strip naked and go run out and live in the woods for the rest of winter and eat food off of trees and stuff? Only Chris? Okay. Well, I figured it wouldn't be a lot of us because these central Wisconsin winters are freezing cold. But, shocker, animals are doing that all the time. Despite how we may feel on the inside during these winter months, the woods are not dead and empty, okay? They're brimming with all sorts of wildlife, even here at Schmeeckle. So my name is Jimmy Larson. I'm a senior practicum student here at UWSP, studying environmental education and interpretation. And today I want to talk to you all about winter critters and what animals are still active and out and about in the woods this time of year. Because despite what many people might think, not all animals are migrating south or hibernating for the winter. Now, there's a lot of hidden clues all over the woods, and even maybe your backyard or UWSP campus, that you can look for to see signs of life, evidence that animals are still out wandering around. Now, I should have grabbed these a little bit earlier, but I'm going to go over a couple things that we should keep our eye out for before we go on our little hike. The most obvious of which are tracks. So can anyone tell me what these are? What animal these belong to?
Explanation points. No.
Really, no one? These are,
Bambi.
yes, white-tailed deer tracks. So I'm really glad that it snowed a little bit this morning. I was really hoping for that, so hopefully we can see some animal tracks. I've got a couple other examples here. Here we've got, any other guesses? Any ideas?
Raccoon.
No, close.
Squirrel.
Squirrel, yeah.
Squirrels.
No, how about this one?
That one was
That's,
the raccoon.
yeah, this is the raccoon. Now, obviously, there's a lot other different kinds of tracks that might be, and that we'll probably see, hopefully, on our hike. And I'll point them out as we see them and do my best to identify them for y'all. But these are not the only, this is probably the most obvious evidence that animals are out and about. But there's a lot of other things we can be looking for. These here are scales from a pine cone. Now you might find little bits of these littered along the trail or out in the woods. Now this is evidence of an animal eating these pine scales. As we all know, in the wintertime, there's not really any fruiting bodies on plants that are ready and available for animals to eat, so they have to get creative. So something like pine cones or even pine needles sounds pretty good, right? I know Griffin thinks so.
Vitamin C.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Pine needles. I've never tried them, but apparently they taste citrusy. So something I found out from Griffin here. But animals have to get real creative with their choices of food during this time of year. So if you guys did strip down naked and run out into the woods and become just a woods person for the winter, you might have to resort to eating things like this. Now here is a little patch of snow that has been turned over. Now this could be by any number of animals, coyotes, foxes, but this one's pretty big. This is most likely from a white-tailed deer. As we all know, there's plenty of those wandering around the woods at all times of the year here in Schmeeckle. So I'm really hoping we'll see something like this. There might not be enough snow for something like this to be super obvious, but we'll keep our eyes out. Here's the kids' favorite.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, another pretty obvious sign of wildlife that we should keep our eyes out for. This in particular is white-tailed deer scat. So, we'll probably see something like this along our trail. Just watch where you're walking so we don't track it inside when we go in the birding room. Now, does anybody have any clue what this might be from? No, not quite. Although that is another good sign of life.
Porcupines?
Yes. So I don't know if any of you had attended Eric's program on white-tailed deer, but this time of year, deer are going to be marking trees with bucks are marking trees with their antlers, and they'll be doing these scrapes all on the trees, and they can be kind of easy to spot because if you see bark that's kind of shredded up and it looks a lot redder or orangish on the inside there, it means it's been split open and it's been marked by a buck. Then, here's a fun one. Who knows where this comes from?
Owl belly?
Yes. So owls, they swallow their food whole, but obviously they can't digest things very easily or at all like hair or bones. So once they've got enough of that in their system, they need to cough it up and spit it out. So this would be really awesome to find. I'd love to see if we can find one of these. But yes, owls are active and still hunting in the woods this time of year. They don't migrate south. In fact, they actually reduce their amount of movement by quite a bit to save calories. We'll get to more of that stuff in a little bit. Now, those are the main signs of life. Now, there's a lot of other things like holes from woodpeckers that we'll probably spot on our way. But I want you guys to all keep these things in mind as we're going on our hike here and see if we can spot any. If you see something, please speak up and let the group know, and we can all take a look. And I'll definitely be pointing out a couple things on our way too. So we can all get ready and go on our hike right now. And what they do, this is for mating, so they'll make calls from here, and they also, this is going to be gross, they urinate down their legs, and they have a gland, what was the name? Yeah, the metatarsal gland, which releases a scent that apparently attracts female deer to them. So I'm not sure if that would work for us, but
No.
that is how white-tailed deer bucks attract a mate. And so this is evidence of that right here, along with, of course, the obvious deer poop, adding further proof that they're out here wandering and not just surviving, but even looking for a mate to make baby deer. All right, so that was fun. Saw a lot of really cool things, covered up pretty much everything that I was talking about with the signs of life. Hopefully next time we can see like an owl pellet or something. That would be awesome. But like I said, not many of us, or pretty much none of us except for Chris, want to live in the woods this time of year. And why is that? Well, obviously the central Wisconsin winters are brutal, super cold. So how on earth do animals, how do deer, how do squirrels, how do all these things stay active and running around outside during this time of year? Well, they have all these special adaptations that allow them to make a way of life for themselves this time of year. Now, we're going to not play a little game, it's going to be sort of like trivia. I'm going to pass out some animal characteristic cards to each of you. If you guys could all partner up with somebody, that would be great. And I'll hand out some animal characteristic cards to you and your partner. And I want you all to read them and, to the best of your ability, try to match them up with what each animal on here. So we've got a hare, a black-capped chickadee, deer mouse, a coyote, a white-tailed deer, and a red-tailed hawk. Now these are all animals that are active, hunting, eating, mating during this time of year. So they need special abilities or special adaptations to keep them going. Are we all clear on what an adaptation is?
Yeah.
Okay. For those who in case maybe don't know as well, an adaptation is a characteristic that an animal has that allows them to survive and eat food and reproduce. So, you all have your partners. I can start handing out these cards. And,
A group of
if
three.
you guys have to triple up, that's okay too.
We have pink food. Stores food for
Yeah,
winter.
they put you on point.
Fluff, feathers, eats bugs off the plants and that's
Watch
down.
the moron out there in front of us, digging into the brush. You don't.
These are big creatures. Yeah.
Now, there are
So
some.
it's
A coyote or maybe the no.
There are some duplicate cards in here, and if there's more than one, that means more than one animal shares that characteristic.
Ah.
Eats feathers just like I would. Hawk is there. Chickadee would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it turns white.
Thanks.
Others don't. It's a deer.
See, would be the deer probably.
Did you give us
I don't know. I don't know. Are we? I don't know.
Card belongs to a different animal, or some of these could be the same one. I gave you random
some of them
cards,
could be the same.
so you may or may not have all six. You might have a lot for one. But I guess with that being said, we can start going around group by group and talking about these characteristics and seeing which animal you belong to. So we'll start with you two right here. You can show off your cards or just announce them to the rest of the group and talk, say what you think what animal that characteristic belongs to.
Okay, well, the birds obviously fluff their feathers, so I know that for sure.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an easier one. So birds, you'll see them sometimes they kind of look like they poof up. That's when they're fluffing their feathers. That's because feathers that are fluffed and I'm thinking of a better word than fluffed. Just kind of like bigger feathers that aren't smooth are a lot warmer. So that helps keep them warm in the winter time, rather than if they just had their feathers sitting down smooth, they'd be a lot colder. So that's why they do that.
Thick fur, so we're gonna say the deer, the coyote, and maybe the hare.
Yeah, they all have nice warm fur. The mammal here with the thickest fur would be the coyote, as we can sort of tell just by this image alone. They have a very thick coat of fur that keeps them nice and warm during the winter time.
Strong sense of smell. What did we say for that? The coyote. I think it was just the coyote for that.
Yeah, so the coyote, a lot of the rodents here are going to be living underground, digging tunnels and building their nests underground because the snow keeps them nice and warm and insulated. And safer from predators, obviously, than if they were on the surface. However, coyotes have such a strong sense of smell, they'll be tracking the ground and they can locate a rodent or any other kind of prey that might be under the ground and dig it up and have it for dinner. So that definitely helps them during the winter.
Not affected by deep snow, so we're gonna say the hare for that because of the back feet, and then the mouse.
Yeah. So that's true. For a little different reasons, though. The mouse is very light, so they can sort of run across snow. And like I said, they also like to dig tunnel systems underneath the snow. So a lot of times, the deeper the snow, even better for them. Lets them make more expansive networks and keeps them safer from predators and makes their nest warmer. And the hare is very agile, so it can run over snow, especially when that snow, I'm sure when you guys got this other card, is crusted over, sort of when it's kind of like icy on top and flaky. They're really good at running across that and not falling through it.
And then the hare also turns white.
Yes. So the one mammal on here now is kind of a trick because This is not a hare in winter. This is probably in summer or something. But they get a white coat of fur in the wintertime. Now, obviously, this helps them blend in with the snow a lot better. So, a predator like a hawk or a coyote, it's going to be a lot harder for them to see that hare running across than if it stayed brown and was running across the surface of the snow. It'd be super easy to spot.
Shelters in standing dead trees.
Right. So that's I'll let you answer.
I think a lot of animals probably do it, but I'm gonna say
Well, not quite the deer. That one's for the chickadee.
Okay.
Now, dead standing trees is a good place where you'll find lots of black-capped chickadees around this time of year.
and then we got
Reduces movement. So that would go for the red-tailed hawk. I didn't let you guess. That's okay. Sort of like what I was mentioning before with the owls. Instead of migrating, they actually reduce how far they go by a pretty significant amount. They'll be staying sort of in that same tree stand for most of winter. Now, this is to conserve calories over the winter time because food is a lot harder to come by this time of year. And so they need to do everything they can to keep those, not waste those calories on unnecessary movement. If that's all for you two, we can move on to the next group. And if you really don't know, you can just ask me.
Okay, great eyesight. The owl.
The
I mean,
hawk.
hawk, sorry.
Yes.
We just had an owl.
The red-tailed
Yes.
hawk and owls have
Yes.
very great eyesight. So they can spot their prey. They can see a tiny little deer mouse running around, a little brown dot moving around on the surface. They'll spot that and come down and grab it, probably like what he's doing right here.
Yep.
So too bad for anybody that's right here, but good for the red-tailed
Mouse.
hawk.
Okay. You want to do something else?
we also had perches, which we also put with the hawk.
Yeah, so that's really similar with the reduces movement thing. They'll sort of just sit in one spot for like a day at a time, even more, and just sit so that they're not wasting too many calories. Because food's hard to come by for everybody, but especially for carnivores, this is a tough time of the year because they're like on the higher trophic level, so they got to be. We don't have to explain all that right now, but it's hard to come by food for them.
Dens under snow, and that's why the red-tailed hawk conserves energy because the mice are denning under the snow and they can't find them.
Yeah.
That's a mouse.
So yeah, the mice, they like to make nests under the snow. And also actually the coyote does too. So coyotes will den up to 3 to 4 feet under snow if the snow's deep enough. A lot of times they'll actually steal another animal's den and go in there because no animal's gonna, what are they gonna do? You know, it's the coyotes, so they've just gotta go find a new one. But yeah, coyotes actually like to sleep under the snow. For this, a lot of the same reasons that the mice do. Keeps them nice and warm.
Yeah, we get too warm underfurs. So,
I think one of them we said the mouse.
oh, the coyotes. The coyotes got warm underfur, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So both the mouse and the coyote have an extra layer of fur underneath the stuff you see on the outside, and so it's just like what us people do. We wear layers. So under my Carhartt jacket, I have a sweatshirt, and then under this, I have another T-shirt, and so those layers helps keep our body heat that's radiating off of us trapped onto our body and keep us warm during the winter.
Reduces body temperature. The mouse again.
Not quite, actually. That is the black-capped chickadee. Black-capped chickadees in the wintertime will reduce their body temperature by up to 12 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
And from about an average of 42 degrees Celsius in the spring and summertime. And again, that's to preserve calories, because the warmer your body is, the more calories it's spending to keep it warm. Now, you probably said rodent because a lot of rodents hibernate during the winter. That's true for a lot. For instance, groundhogs, which you can actually find out here in Schmeeckle, hibernate in the winter, and they'll lower their body temperature to go into hibernation. But the deer mouse is still active and out and about during the winter time. So.
Black, gray, white camouflage. It sounds like the chickadee.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of an obvious one. You can see the white, gray, and black right here. So obviously the white, keeps them camouflaged in the snow, but since they like to be up in trees a lot, obviously since they're birds, they don't want to be completely white because you can spot, a little white ball against the bark of a tree. So they kind of got a mixture here to help them really blend in.
We were thinking, well, with the coyote also and the red-tailed hawk, they all are kind of camouflaged in the same way.
Yeah, that is true. The coyote's a little less white, but they do have that sort of brownish, grayish coloring on them that helps them blend into the woods. Same thing with the red-tailed hawk when they're up in trees so that their prey don't see them coming.
Our last one is nest, and that also is chickadee.
Yeah, so a lot of these animals nest. They will build nice warm nests, preparing their houses for winter. Mice do the same thing. They'll build nests underground, sort of in the same way that we'll turn on the heat in our house to prepare our house for the winter. Animals are adding more sticks and just adding things to their nests to keep them extra warm and their babies extra warm during this time of year.
What about rabbits? We have some that live under our deck, and I don't know if they don't really, they just kind of, do they make some kind of a nest? Rabbits.
Hares, not really, definitely not like the chickadee or the mouse, who will take pieces of sticks and other organic material to build a nest. Rabbits don't really do that, but they will maybe make a little indent in the snow and huddle up together to keep them warm. And they'll find things like your deck to live under so that they're both kept warm and also safe from predators. So, all right, we can move on to the next pair here.
I think you just told us Huddles was the rabbit.
Yeah, so that is the rabbit, but it also, believe it or not, applies to the black-capped chickadee.
Okay, the chickadee too. Okay.
So,
I was thinking that, and then you said the rabbit huddles.
yeah. So chickadees will become a lot more social during the wintertime and huddle with other chickadees to keep warm, but they'll even huddle with birds of other species like warblers to keep them warm during the wintertime. So there's even some between species cooperation to keep them all warm. The more the merrier, especially when you're huddling to keep warm. So
Thick fat layer.
Think of the deer.
Deer.
yeah. So every animal here, especially the mammals, get a little bit bigger during the wintertime, but especially the deer will have the thickest, fattest fat layer under them. Now, just the more bulk you got on you, the easier it is to stay warm. So, yeah.
Hollow fur.
Yeah. Any guesses?
Deer again.
Deer.
Yeah. So deer have a kind of hollow fur, which kind of blew my mind when I was learning about it. I'd never heard of hollow fur before, but believe it or not, they actually use that kind of fur in some coats. And it keeps you extra warm because the hollow fur traps warm air even better than normal fur that's radiating off your body. And so under this outer layer of fur, or all this fur is hollow, and that's what helps them trap that warm air on their body.
Polar bears are hollow fur too.
Yes, yeah, they do.
That helps keep them warm.
Makes trails in deep snow.
Deer will.
Deer.
Yeah.
And a rabbit does too, somewhat.
More so the deer. In deep snow, it's difficult for the deer to. Whereas the rabbit's a lot more agile and can run across the surface. The deer, they're much heavier, so they're going to sink in. So when the snow gets really deep, it's kind of hard for them to get through. So deer will group together, and together they'll sort of push out trails of snow that they all use in the woods during the wintertime, sort of like kind of like the tunnel networks that they do. It's just above ground, but they're making trails that other deer follow, and it makes them a lot easier to travel, facilitate travel.
Agile and crusted over snow.
Kind of talked about that one a lot.
Yeah, rabbit.
Yeah, the hare.
Sharp talons is red tail.
Yep, so that's for that crusted over snow. Sometimes the snow's a little icy on top, but they can break right through the snow and catch a rodent that they got their eyes on.
Curls up with tail over nose. I think that's the coyote.
Yeah. So when coyotes are in their dens, not hibernating, when they're in their dens resting and warming up, they'll sleep and they'll curl around and have their tail sitting on top of their face as an extra layer of warmth to keep on their face. I thought that was a pretty cool fact.
Well, dogs do that.
Yeah.
Fur-covered ears. I'm guessing almost all three, at least the coyote, the mouse, and the hare.
Yeah. They do all the mammals have a layer of fur over their ears, but as you can see, if we get a closer look here, the mouse and the rabbit especially, it's almost like a little bit translucent. It's a lot thinner than the coyotes, who have very thick puffs of hair over their ears. So that would be more for the coyote if you'll see that too. They don't have quite as much fur as the coyote does on their ears. All right.
We had eats bugs off plants, so that was the deer.
Yep. So, like I said, they have to get really creative with their food choices. So they'll a lot of times resort to eating the buds right off of trees, which I don't know. Maybe Griffin, have you tried that too? Might be the deer like it. Apparently.
Lives under the snow. The mouse.
Yep.
And you said that the coyotes can also do dens under the snow.
Yeah. So both of them, the mice probably spend a lot more time under the snow, but yeah.
Excellent hearing. Coyotes and maybe the hare.
Yeah, but yes, I was gonna say the hawk has very excellent hearing, which obviously helps them catch their prey if they can hear someone scampering across the snow.
Warm fur, so the coyote, and then shelters under conifers. We weren't sure exactly which one that was.
Okay, so the shelters, warm fur is right on the coyote. Shelters under conifers, I mean, potentially all these animals really, but especially hares like to live under those conifers. If you remember earlier, I was talking about eating pine needles as a source of food. Well, that is a favorite of these hares, and so that's a big part of why they like to nest under conifers, to get that good source of pine needles.
We had eats buds off of plants. We said it's the deer. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe the hare.
The hare also does that, yeah.
Beds down at night. That can be the deer.
Yeah, so that's sort of about that that picture I showed you earlier in the Signs of Life, where they sort of make a bed for themselves. It's something they'll do.
Fluff feathers, we said, was the birds.
Yeah, both the birds will fluff their feathers.
Stores food for winter. I was thinking either the hare or the mouse. I don't know if the mouse.
This would be more for the mouse.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So they'll collect like a lot of seeds and
Yep.
stuff like that.
And then the last one I had was big feet. Was that the deer or is that the hawk? Because I kind of thought big feet is the hawk kind of has bigger feet. I could be wrong. I don't know.
It sort of, I guess, depends on your perspective, but I was more thinking along the lines of the hair here.
Oh yeah,
Those
yes,
big
yeah.
back feet.
Okay,
that helps
yeah,
them
no,
travel
it's
over the
fair.
snow.
That's the last one we had.
All right, cool. So you guys actually did very well. Got all those characteristics down. You can see how those things all are really necessary for surviving the winter months. A lot of those things we can maybe relate to ourselves, you know, prepping your home or, you know, turning up the heat or putting extra blankets on your bed for winter in the same way that the chickadees and the mice will make their nests a little bit extra insulated and warm for the winter. You know, growing an extra fur coat or getting a really thick layer of fur. It's like what we do. We layer up, keep warm, and we even change what kind of food we eat. I mean, nobody really wants to eat hot chili in the middle of July when it's 95 degrees out, but during winter time, that's great. That's a great option. You know, keep warm, hot chocolate, of course, you know. So a lot of the things that they do to survive, we do also to sort of make life a little bit more pleasant during these frigid months. Now for the last part of this talk, we're gonna head up to the birding room over in the Nature Center. That's where we're gonna end our program. So I don't know if you guys have things you want to collect or whatnot, but yeah, if you guys can just place those on the table over there, that'd be perfect. And we're gonna head on over there, and hopefully we can see some animals out and about. So feel free to come on up and just make observations, point out some animals to everybody. I think we have some black-capped chickadees around.
There's
Yep.
one right there.
Can I see it?
Right there on the feeder.
And is there?
There's one in the tree, I think, over there. There's one, some kind of animal in the tree. There.
Squirrel sometimes you got a tail curled up.
Oh yeah, there's
Another
a squirrel
squirrel
right
over there.
Red-breasted nuthatch.
Was there a red-breasted nuthatch? Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Oh, I just love them. Not
Pretty
as much.
much wraps it up for this lesson. You all can feel free to stay in here and stay warm and observe the wildlife. I encourage you all to go out to Schmeeckle or any other local forest preserve and keep your eye out because there are indeed lots of animals out and about, as we can see right here. So wintertime the woods aren't dead. They're very much alive and brimming with life, like they are in the summertime. So thank you all for coming and being such a great audience today. It was a lot of fun.